Hello and welcome back to episode 18, the Talk of Fame podcast. I'm Kylie, and today we have the wonderful Alexa Jaggs with us today. But instead of me introducing you, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us more about what you do?
Hello, I am Alexa. My stage name is Alexa Jaggs. Technically, my real name is Alexa Jagger, but that's undercover. Not really. It's fine. It's right on the screen in the Zoom, so and it's not a secret. I am a stand-up and sketch comedian. I am based in Chicago. I've done stand-up at a number of comedy clubs throughout Chicago and throughout the Midwest. I performed in 5 or 6 different states. We're excited to talk more.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. That's wonderful. So over the last year, we've been stuck in quarantine, basically because of this whole pandemic. What is something that you did over the last year that you had time to do before?
Well, making comedy sketches was really big because prior to the pandemic, I had been doing stand-up so hard, really heads down. I was going to open mics, I was doing shows, I was out nearly every night of the week in front of live crowds. And then all of a sudden, obviously that comes to a screeching halt and we can't do that anymore. So it was I need that creative outlet still. And I had a couple sketches that I had kind of jotted down little ideas for, but I hadn't finished. So it was a cool opportunity to sit and write a different kind of comedy, and then to film and edit and make things with my friends, whether outdoors or separately with green screens. And then as things got a little looser, we were able to meet up at each other's apartments and film together. And I had so much fun. I would get together with other comedians and filmmakers I know in the city of Chicago, and we would just have an absolute blast making these videos. And I realized that it's something I really like doing and want to keep doing. So now I've been kind of balancing that a lot more with stand up and stuff. And I've submitted some of my sketches to little comedy film festivals, and they've been accepted, or a couple got nominated for awards. And so that was really exciting again to explore this sort of different part of myself that before I never had time to do because I was go, 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 gotta grind.
Yeah, 100%. I feel the exact same way. This about the podcast. I'm always I need to do this right now. I'm basically scheduling myself to do interviews every single day. I'm I need to grind on this. I need to do more things to get myself mindful and to grow. But what is it getting to do with comedy on getting to do it in front of people? What's it like for you?
It's unbelievably energizing. It's I think a lot of stand-up comics will tell you that they basically do their first open mic, and most people bomb their first time. It really is a skill that takes time to learn, but it doesn't matter because you bomb and you're that was so great, I need to do it again. It's just very much an enjoyable experience even when it doesn't go well. That isn't to say that sometimes obviously I walk off the stage and I'm well, hate myself now, that was terrible. But it's still it's better than, I think one of my comedy friends, Evan Hall, he's another really funny Chicago comedian. He always says that he always feels better after being on stage than before, even if it was a terrible set, whatever. He's I feel a little better because I did comedy today. It's just really magical and wonderful, making people laugh. It feels like a very human connection because fundamentally when people are laughing, they're relating in a way. And so to stand on stage and relate to a room of, even if it's just 5 people up to 100 people, it's so cool to feel that connection.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I feel I can connect with you on that because every time I kind of do an interview, sometimes I'll be oh, I did a horrible job, or why did I say such a thing like that? Why did I do that? And I always feel that way. Every interview I do, I'm what did I just do right now? What did I just do? But then after, I'm oh, I feel good about this. I did what I love and do kind of make people happy, smile. That's really what I'm trying to do, is make my viewers, whether it's from the US, United Kingdom, whatever it is, wherever you guys located, it's it's just a joy to find something. Because mostly after this whole pandemic, it's been hard on everybody, mostly teenagers and adults, it's been hard. Like I had COVID 2 months ago and it was hard. And like I'd be stuck in a room, can't do what I can't do. I can't leave the room. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going insane. Like I just want to leave this house. I can't do it. And I think that's like everybody have felt. It's like once the pandemic hit, everyone was so busy and like they did their own thing. They're busy every single day or something going on. But once the pandemic hit, everyone's like, what are we gonna do with our life now? Like, what are we gonna do? That's kind of I thought. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I can't see my family. I can't do anything. So I'm like, oh my God, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah, when through the pandemic, I mean, especially when like everything was completely shut down, I kind of made like a little framework to help me stay sane, which was like the idea that every day, it's like, so there's like creative activities, social activities, and active activities. And I was like, okay, you don't have to do all three every day because life is hard. Sometimes it's a no bones day. You're not going to always do it. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
So my rule was always two of the three.
Yeah.
So just maybe I don't know, drew a picture and called a friend, or maybe I did a Zoom game night and I exercised, or maybe I exercised and wrote some jokes. But that was sort of really what helped me kind of keep it together through the pandemic and ultimately resulted in me creating a lot of the digital content I ended up making that I'm really proud of. I'm very happy with. So it's weird. It's like out of the horribleness of the pandemic, some good things have come because we've all really had to work very hard to be like, okay, how do I feel happy? How do I feel fulfilled instead of just like going through the motions?
Like I agree with that 100%. Like a lot of people felt like, oh, how am I going to keep myself busy? How am I going to keep my kids busy during this pandemic? It's everyone this is like going on a pace. Like everyone's expecting to do something. And so like this is how I basically came out with the podcast is basically a quarantine and like nothing to do. I'm like, oh, I need to do something with my life right now. I'm bored. I'm nothing to do. Like I think this is a perfect opportunity. And plus, I have two family members in my family that are journalists for my local station. So I'm like, I texted them and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. Like, is there anything is there any advice you can give me? And they're like, oh yeah, do this, do that, like do whatever you want. So I always idolize like my Aunt Rennie does a journalist. She works in a local news station. And I always like idolized her as a kid. I always idolized her. I always want to do everything she did. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do what she did right now. So I'm like, oh, I guess I can do it now because I always a very kind of very shy kid. So I'm like, oh, me and my parents are like, how are you going to do this? Like, you're a very shy kid. How are you going to be open to yourself? I'm like, I can I can figure something out. And then the shadows go away. It's not that hard. I'm like, it's not that hard. You have to communicate, then you're there.
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to like challenge yourself and try new things. I also just think, I think this idea for this podcast is so great because I think, there are so many different pathways to so many different careers or forms of artistic expression or things in, the media. And there are so many different channels to get there and different types of things you can do. And the best way to learn about it is like hearing a bunch of different people's stories. So I think a lot of times when you're like in high school, everyone thinks like life is on a track. I do this, I go to college, and then I get a job, and then that is my job or whatever. But in reality, that's like not how it works. Everyone's path is completely different. And I have a lot of friends who go in the middle of college are all of a sudden like, I don't know what I'm doing. How to get to where I want to be. I don't even know what I want to be. I don't even know what the options are. And the only way to figure out options is to talk to more people and basically be like, hey, what do you do? What's your story? What are you passionate about? And so I think this is absolutely fantastic just from I wish I had something like this when I was younger because might have saved me a couple existential crises. That's all I'm saying.
100%. Yeah. Like a lot of people think like, oh, they need to learn early on what they want to be. And people always kind of expect you to think like, oh, you need to learn what you want to be at 12 years old, what you want to be when you're older, or what college you want to go to, or wherever you want to be. And some people be like, Why? I don't know. It will take time. Now I'm not even in high school yet. So I'm like, people always be like, oh yeah, and I'm in ninth grade now. So I'll be graduating so in a couple of years. I'm like, I still don't know what I want to do. This takes time. Like I have a couple of options I have rolling in my brain right now, but like it just takes time. People always like expect you to be like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. And that's kind of not how kind of people work, I would say. Like that's how your brain like
Mhm.
works. Like it's basically your mindset and like what you want to be, what you really want to work.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so since we've been stuck home all year, is there any movies or shows that you binge over quarantine?
Oh my goodness, so many. Oh, so many.
Mhm.
What have I binged over quarantine? Trying to think of something that's like not embarrassing to admit. I did a full rewatch of 30 Rock because that was on Netflix and that's hilarious. I did Only Murders in the Building on Hulu. Hilarious. Steve Martin is a gem. Um,
100%.
Watched a bunch of comedy specials, which I loved. And I actually on Hulu is MASH, which is a sitcom from the 70s about the Korean War. And it is, I mean, it's, you know, one of the best sitcoms of all time, along with like Cheers and stuff. And it was fun. Like I rewatched a bunch of this like super old sitcom and seeing how much of it like holds up and how much doesn't, and what still makes me laugh and what do I not get because the pop culture like isn't there. I'm
Mhm.
a sitcom person. I don't watch a ton of the like big drama shows that everyone's like, oh my gosh, you have to binge. Like I didn't watch Squid Game, but I watched all of like Superstore, and that's just me. I don't like to feel
Yeah.
feelings. I like to laugh.
Yeah, I'm the same exact person. Like I love to watch like sitcoms, and like you said before, you love sitcoms. Like, did you ever watch Full House? It's a sitcom like
Oh
four.
yeah, grew up on
Oh,
Full
that
House.
was I used to be I'm obsessed with Full House, Full House. I watched that since I was a baby. I was like that was my whole childhood. Like
Oh,
I can't explain how much I love Full House and Full House. It made the best sitcom ever.
well, that's what I feel like sitcoms. They're so wonderful because it kind of becomes like very like close to your heart because they're not they since it's like a slow burn, they're just trying to make you laugh every episode. You like fall in love with the characters in a way that's very slow and gradual, and you see them grow in a way that's very slow and gradual. So it feels like they're like your family, or it's like very comforting. So instead of being like, this one's mean, we hate this one, like in a
Mhm.
drama, you kind of people have to get to know characters faster so that then drama can unfold. Whereas in a sitcom, you don't you get to know them slower, and I feel like it makes it very comforting. And I know a lot of people find sitcoms like, it's like the escape from the stress of life.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. Like the best sitcoms are always kind of best. Like no matter like what generation you're in, it's always a part of your life. And like I always love sitcoms, even it's like Full House or I can't think as many sitcoms in my head at the moment. But the only thing I can think of is Full House and like
I
that
mean, it's a
really
classic.
my childhood. I remember watching it every single night. I just fell in love with the show, the characters, and like once I found out they're doing Full House, the sitcom, I'm like, no way right now. This is not possible right now. I'm obsessed with this now. Like, what am I gonna do? Oh God, no! Why are you doing this to me right now? This is not time.
Like, it's homework. I don't have time to be obsessed with the show.
So as you mentioned before, you're a comedian. So what made you want to start that?
Well, uh, I always loved making people laugh. Like growing up, adults would say stuff to me like, "Oh, are you gonna be a comedian when you grow up or whatever?" But like, and a kid, you're like, "Nah." Um, and I actually had a really hard time picturing like I always kind of wanted to be like a star. I liked attention, still do. But I had a hard time picturing myself as like a comedic actress or as a comedian, and I think a lot of that is still now, but especially like when I was growing up, there really weren't a lot of like funny women in movies and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have like a very vivid memory of watching The Princess Bride with my dad and saying, Wesley's so funny. I wish I were a boy so I could be funny like that. And my dad said, why couldn't you be funny like that? He doesn't have to be a boy for that to be funny. And I was like, yeah, he does. It just doesn't work. And my dad was like, didn't understand, but I was like a kid and I already was like ingrained with this idea that like it would just read different coming from a woman. And then, so I always loved making people laugh, but I never really saw myself making a career in it. I was also very good in school, and my parents aren't very artsy, so I was like, okay, I'm going to be like an engineer. So I went to MIT, and I graduated with a degree in environmental engineering. And I went out into the workforce, and I was working a job, and I was like, it just became very apparent to me. I was like, I'm a creative person, and I need to be creative to feel happy. And I've been trying to like ignore that part of myself for a long time. I've been trying to be like, you're a science girl, you're a science girl. And I am, but that's like, the wonderful thing is you can be multiple things, like I can be really good at school and science, but also incredibly creative and funny. So I went to an open mic. I think I did my first open mic in college before I graduated, and then I didn't do it again for maybe about 9 months. And then when I went back to it, I stopped since. It's like, it's addictive. I love it. Half of my closest friends are from comedy. Like, it's such a community, and I get to meet and work with so many other awesome creative people. Yeah, I think honestly I got into comedy because I really hated my job. And I was like, I love listening to stand-up comics. I might as well give this a try. And I went to one open mic and watched a bunch of people bomb, and I was like, well, at least I'll be better than that. Because that's the other thing, is that an open mic, no, it sets the bar so low. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you will not be the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, like a lot of people think like, oh, this stinks. I can be better than this person. Did a horrible job. I can do much better. But like a lot of people nowadays, like you said before, you didn't see like a woman doing, you saw like a man. And that reminds me, like I've been seeing myself growing up as well. I didn't know what I wanted to be. Like I didn't see a lot of people like me as a kid, as growing up, and like women are basically not represented as men in like industry. And I don't know if you heard of her, but Gina Davis, she's an actress.
Oh yeah.
She does all that with her institute.
Yeah, I've seen her documentary on Netflix and stuff. This changes everything.
Oh yeah. This changes everything.
On Instagram and stuff. Oh, I am in the know.
Yeah, and so if you haven't watched the documentary, people, I recommend watching it. This changes everything on Netflix. Go watch it. It's a must watch.
I tell absolutely everyone to watch it.
Yeah, same here.
Everyone, you think you're a feminist or whatever, or you are even a woman, and watching it is like such a wake-up call in terms of unconscious bias and just the data they put in front of you. Like, I realized after watching it, I started thinking about my own comedy sketches that I write, and I'm like, am I writing in as many female characters as male characters? Like,
yeah.
And it's funny to realize that, like, even as a woman, you can have this like unconscious bias because we've all grown up pickling in this patriarchal culture.
Yeah. So like I've been like, Gina Davis is like my hero. She's the one that made me want to do this. She's someone I look up to the most with everything. She's one of the reasons why I started this. Like, she's my hero. I can't express how much I adore her and love her.
She's a queen.
One that works in the industry, that if you do anything with Gina Davis or whoever, hook her up for me, please. I want her on my podcast. So please, people, hook her up, please. So like the things she does, she's like an icon in many ways. Like, she is amazing. The things she does, she's like a hero to many people, including me. So I'm like, what? At least there's not a lot of people that do what kind of she does with gender equality. And people are always like, oh, you're a feminist if you believe in that, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, you can't believe in that. And that's like, people be like, oh, you don't know, I can believe in what I want. And that's kind of what people are like nowadays, is like, oh, you can't do this, you can do that. But I'm like, we can do anything we want to do. You can't tell us what we can't do. It's our life. Like, we can do whatever we want.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, the media is very, powerful in how people perceive and talk about things, and it's wild. I'm actually writing a sketch right now that's sort of about female representation, and it's a comedy sketch, but it's about something I've been like thinking a lot about. And that's another fun thing about comedy, is you can find ways to explore, play with, laugh about, laugh with, like things that are even kind of difficult topics. It's like a way to work through things sometimes, you know?
Yeah. So what is some advice for people who would like to be like you one day?
I think you gotta rethink how you view success. Um, and you gotta do what you love and work on making stuff you love. I think the whole idea that if you're not making a living at something, you're not successful is ridiculous. And that's so like flawed. You can be an incredibly talented like musician who's making incredible music, and you know, have a day job. Or you can like be a local comedian because you have a family and you're caring for them. So maybe you're not touring around the whole country. Maybe you're not a household name, but you're making people laugh every weekend. And, you know, I think when you focus all of your energy on the idea that I am only successful if I am rich or if I am famous, you're going to end up miserable, because what happens is then people get rich and famous and they're like, what now?
Yeah.
Like it's really not satisfying. And I think also people, you know, you got to get over the fear of failure. I think a lot of times people don't want to try things because they don't want to fail, or they don't want to tell people that they want something, because then if they fail, the person will be like, oh, that's embarrassing. I love to tell people my dreams. I love to tell people I would love to write for a TV show someday. And you know what? Maybe that won't happen. Or maybe I'll change my mind and I'll have a different dream. But I'm not afraid to like tell people my dreams, even if they're crazy. Like I'm not I'm not like an overpromise, or I'm not like here to under promise and over deliver. I wanna over promise. I wanna shoot like big, you know?
Mhm.
That I think a lot of people don't are afraid of failure. Like think about even like when people draw, you know, have you ever like started making an art project, a craft, a something, and you go like, ah, this sucks, never mind, and you like
Yeah,
quit. It's
yeah.
like this art fear. We're all
Mhm.
afraid to make stuff that's bad.
Yeah.
But the thing about art is someday you're gonna look back on the art and be like, that was bad, because you're always evolving and changing as an artist. And sometimes making art for art's sake and the joy it brings you is like the most important thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
you can't be afraid of failing, and you need to have a definition of success that's focused on the thing you create and how it makes you feel, rather than external factors like money and fame. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So like,
Also, the lighting totally just changed, and now my face looks so pale. The sun went down behind this building out here, and now my lips look the same color as my face, and I look very spooky like a vampire. Anyway, you can go now.
yeah, it's like dark right here and now, so my face is like, ooh, you can see me. So like fail people are always like are scared to fail. Like I exact same way, I'm scared to fail, but you don't know if you're gonna fail unless you try what you want to do. Like you don't know you go until you fail until you try it. Like if you don't, if you're scared to fail, you don't know until it's gonna happen. So you always should go for it and do what you want to do. If you fail, that's okay. Try something new. But then like you don't know if you're gonna fail until you do like do something.
Yeah,
People always say, oh, you're gonna fail, or you're gonna be so bad at this, like you don't deserve this, you don't shouldn't do that. But you be like it just makes you stronger, what you makes you want to push what you wanted. And so
cool.
it's like makes you want to even like makes you want it even more. Like it's like you should go for it. If you're gonna hate on me for not doing what I do, that's fine. I'm gonna push it, and I know it makes me stronger. I'm gonna do what I do and prove you wrong. You don't know what I'm gonna do. You don't know how much practice this takes.
Yeah.
Like
It's
I'll
like a
prove
lot
you
of
wrong
times people
someday.
project their own fear of failure onto you. Like they're like, oh, what if you fail? Or like, oh, you're failing, so obviously you're a failure. I'm like, I can fail, but still be a super successful person. And anyone in comedy will tell you everyone bombs. everyone. Like John Mulaney bombs. Like Mike Birbiglia, they bomb. And Amy Schumer bombs. Like we all have bombed. And
100%.
so you need to like understand that failure is like part of the process, and it's part of growing and changing and developing. And yeah, if I've had people say stuff to people who project their fear of failure like onto me. Like I've had people be like, oh, you do comedy? You're not like trying to make it big, are you? Like, oh, and I'm like, I'm sorry you're afraid to dream big. Or
Yeah, same here.
like it doesn't, like maybe I will make it like big, but again, I question the definition of making it big, because I know so many incredibly funny comedians who make their living doing comedy and you've never heard of them, or they don't have hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers. It's like success doesn't equal fame. Success doesn't even have to equal money. Like success is doing what you love and getting better at it and getting to share it, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. So, is there anything that you do to help you be in the mindset while being in industry and work with other people?
What was that? I'm sorry.
So, is there anything that you do to help you be in the mindset while being in the industry and working with other people?
I mean, I love collaborating and working with other creatives and stuff. I think the biggest mindset thing is a lot of people try to be like prideful and competitive, and you gotta, if you want to have a productive time, you gotta set that aside, because the best art we make is when we make it together. You know, like the best sketches I write are when I have a friend help me punch it up, or when you're in the green room of a comedy club and you're riffing about someone's joke and you're like, oh my gosh, I love that joke you did about cats. You should add something about this. Or have you ever thought about it this way? And then you laugh and you bounce ideas off each other. And it's like collaboration makes it better every time, always. So if you're so prideful that you're like, no, every joke I write needs to be 100% mine, I will not accept help, and everyone here is someone I'm competing against because there's only a limited number of spots and I want it. Like, no, we're all playing with the same thing, and that's comedy.
Yeah, so like if people always kind of in the industry, it's very competitive business, especially. And people always say, "Oh, I'm better than you. You already know I'm better than you," but you don't know that. You might think you're better than you, like, and that doesn't make sense. But you think I'm better than you. Let's just put that as an example.
Like,
But
ultimately, you have to set your ego aside.
Yeah, and be like, that might be true, but at least I'm doing what I love. I don't care if you're better than me, as long as you're doing what I love. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
Might be important to you, but not important to me.
Oh, I was just gonna say, that's why we need more women in the industry, because women just have fewer ego problems.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. I agree with that. Oh my God. I couldn't relate to anything more. Oh my gosh. So the last question for the interview is, do you have anyone that you look up to in the industry?
Oh, well, I mean, you mentioned Gina Davis. Obviously, she and all of the other women in like Hollywood who are like Reese Witherspoon, who are like, you know, are working very hard to represent and tell the stories of women. That's obviously very important. Other people I look up to, I really like weird, different sorts of comics who have demonstrated that you can be weird and different. So like Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave on Netflix is like one of the weirdest sketch comedy shows I have ever seen in my entire life. And a lot of people do not care for it. It is really weird. It is not traditional, like, but I love it. And I find it so inspiring. I'm like, this made them laugh and it makes me laugh. And they didn't, it's, you know, it's like the reminder that just because you don't get to write for SNL doesn't mean you're not funny. Like, just if you don't have to appeal to 100% of the world, you just got to find your audience. Or like Chris Fleming is a very funny comedian and like internet personality. He has a lot of like internet videos. He did this character Gail that went viral, and he can travel to any city in the country and sell out an auditorium. And he's a weird comic. And I love that, especially with the internet, you can like find your audience. So I feel like those are the people I look up to, the people who are like weird and have found weird audiences that also like their weird content. And I love that. Does that make sense? Like that's the people I look up to are the people who aren't like the huge bajillionaires or TV people. They're the ones who never stop doing the kind of jokes that make them laugh.
Yeah, I love that. Like people, you like I same way. Like people don't care what they think. Like they only care about what they want to do. They only care about what they're trying to do in life. They don't care about what other people think. They love to be weird. They don't care what people think. They love to be weird. That's kind of like why I love that people, like, even if it's just on screen or off screen, whatever it is. That's what I love. Like people just express what they love, and they don't care if they're weird. It's kind of like Kimmy Gibbler in Full House, Full House. Like she says being weird and she doesn't care what other people think. That's what I love about her. Is that she loves being weird. She doesn't care about what other people think. That's what I love. Like there's not a lot of people are like that. Like they always want to not show it. They just want to express being a person they're not. That's kind of how a lot of people are. Is they be the person they're not. And so I think a lot of people should be more open and show their more true selves, and let's say that makes sense. Like if the people show what they actually are. If people don't like it for you, it's their loss. That's fine. It's their loss. But then if they like it for you, then that's great. You found someone that likes you for you. You shouldn't be ashamed of being weird or how you look. Like you're beautiful just the way you are. Don't care about what other people think. Like you're just the way you are.
And like to be secure enough to be silly, to be weird. Like the idea, there's no such thing as something that's objectively funny. Like everyone likes different things. And so I just think a lot of times adults and teenagers too, they don't let themselves play as much. It's like we grow up a little bit and we're like, okay, now I got to be serious and I got to take myself seriously. And I love the people who are just like, or we could not. And I could just be weird and silly and, walk around like this and make noises and just be like childlike. And yeah, you can tell when like a comedian or a writer was like having fun making this. And it's fun to watch people have fun. So
100%. Like it's okay to be weird. Like you can be whatever you want, even if you do some pretty weird things, just for example, or whatever, like how you feel, your personality is, you should feel like that. If people don't like it, okay, throw them out of your life. They don't care about what you do. Just be who you are. Don't care about what other people hate. Be. And if they hate on you, hate on you. You're just jealous of who you are, how you are. And like they just want to be like you. That's how really people are nowadays, that they're jealous and rude and everything. That's kind of how our generation is nowadays, is that they're jealous. And that's how people are. People always tell me that always. Like, I get that a lot. So I'm like, don't worry about what other people think. You're amazing. Just throw that out of the way. You have other things to do. Just do your own thing.
Yeah. I think it's so important to do what you love to do and not be like self-conscious, because I mean, you started this podcast, like in a year or two, how you do the podcast might evolve. What you're doing might be a little different, but like if you keep, doing it, you're going to find new things and explore and grow, and it's going to be awesome. And, screw the people who didn't, believe in you from the start, because it's about you having a good time and learning stuff and just being authentic. And that's freaking beautiful. And it's amazing. And the best part is it's going to get even more amazing. Like, because as long as you keep being authentic and not afraid to do what makes you happy, things just get better. Like the amount of time I spend worrying that, oh, am I not funny, or do people not think I'm funny, or whatever, whenever that happens, I just remind myself how not funny I was a year ago or 2 years ago. And I was funny then. I was getting laughs. But when I look back, I'm like, the growth I have had in 1 year, like if you're sitting thinking, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe it's bad, just like remind yourself, oh my goodness, I'm going to be so great in a year, in 5 years, in, later, like I'm great now, even when I don't always see it, but I'm aging like fine wine. It's getting better and better. And as long as you don't quit, that just keeps happening.
Yeah, 100%. Like mine started a couple months ago. I started in April, I think, April, May. And so like even I'm 15 years old, I'm like, yes, I don't like what I did a couple of episodes ago. Like I might not think, oh, why did I do that? But it depends on growth. I'm learning as I go. It's about your confidence. My confidence has grown throughout this process. It's still new to me, 100%. It's still new. And people always think like, oh, this podcast is horrible. You're doing horrible. You're not going to be a journalist. I'm like, bro, you don't know what I'm going to be. You don't know how successful this is going to be. Like, you don't know how far I'm going to go. Like, I just can have 1 million subscribers and viewers by Christmas, per se. But you don't know how far this is going to go. So, like, if that happens, then good for you. You feel your own opinion, that's fine. Do your own thing. I don't care. Like I do my own thing, you do yours. And I continue my dream and do what I want to do. That's all that matters.
Exactly. And the confidence is huge. And that's incredible. So many people don't have that. And I'm a very confident person. I definitely wasn't when I was 15. But I think another reason I love doing comedy, I want to do comedy, is because I'm loud and I'm confident, and I want to put my voice and my face up there for people who aren't as loud and confident, so they see, they can do things too, and stuff like that, because so many people spend a lot of their life afraid and not confident. So I think starting young, developing that confidence and growing and exploring is like, it's unbelievable. It's irreplaceable. It's so important. Confidence is everything, yo.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Like a lot
of just make it till you make it. No one knows what they're doing. No one knows how to do life. I used to think at some point you become an adult, a switch flips, and you're like, I know how to do my taxes now. No, you never know.
No one knows what they're doing.
We're all faking it, and it's fine. It's a fun game if you let it be.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Oh my God, I love that. I can't really say anything more. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and spending some time out of your day to come on. I truly appreciate you taking time to come on. I really appreciate it. And we'll definitely stay in touch. And I'm really blessed to have you on. We'll definitely stay in contact, my friend. Thank you so
much. Thank you so much for having me. This was absolutely awesome. You're a star.
Thank you so much. It means so much. You are a star. You're more a star more than me. So thank you so much. We'll stay in contact.
All right. Bye.
Bye.